Claire Dawson, a brilliant lead engineer, builds Dawson Sink and makes her family company a fortune. Her parents and sister push her out, crowning her sister Monica as CEO. Anticipating betrayal, Claire implements a biometric safeguard only she can trigger. The company falters without her. She returns as a high-priced consultant on her terms, eventually exposes the truth, walks away to a rival firm, and builds something bigger with her partner Ryan. Family fractures. Claire thrives. The china clinked like tiny alarms. Claire counted them under her breath to keep her hands from shaking. 1, 2, 3. The dining room in their Austin house always ran a little too cold, museum cold, the way her mother preferred it so the silver kept its shine. A framed photo of her father cutting the ribbon on Dawson Dynamics watched them all with a patient smile. Thomas folded his napkin into a neat square. Susan aligned the knife with the plate. Monica took a picture of the table, tilted the phone to catch the roses. The performance of family. Claire had worn the wrong shirt. Not wrong in color, wrong in spirit. The cotton was soft from late nights in the office. It had a coffee stain near the hem she'd tried to scrub out with dish soap. She caught Monica's glance. The smile that followed had no warmth. Thomas cleared his throat. The sound cut the room. He didn't look at Claire when he spoke. He looked at the photo on the wall. "We are making a leadership change." She waited for the smile. The "just kidding." The tease he used when she was 6 and he'd pretend to hide her birthday cake behind his back. No smile came. Monica will be CEO. Effective next week. Claire's fork touched porcelain and made a sound that felt like a hairline crack in a tooth. Monica lifted her wine and pretended surprised badly. "You can focus on the technical side," Susan said. "It suits you." Her voice was soft. Her eyes were made of glass. Claire thought of the server logs waiting for her on her laptop. The lines of code she had written at 2 in the morning with a cold slice of pizza on her knee. The day Dawson Sink crossed 100 million in revenue and the room had cheered. The hush now was louder. "I built the product that got you here." Monica sipped. "Vision is what keeps us here. People follow a story." Thomas folded his hands. "This is for the good of the company. We need you to step down from leadership. If you can't support this, then we should talk about your place in the family." The sentence didn't have teeth until it did. Claire could not feel her feet. She could feel the edge of the table under her fingers, the wood worn smooth by holiday meals and deal toasts, and the night she showed her father the first prototype, and he said, "Kiddo, this is it." She stood. The chair legs squealed against the floor. She set her napkin on the plate so gently it felt like an attack. "Understood," she said. Her voice worked the way code does when it compiles. Clean. No errors on screen. She looked at each of them the way she looked at a broken build, eyes moving, searching for where the design failed. On her way out, she paused at the photo on the wall. Thomas's smile in 1985 was wide and unafraid. She did not recognize the man at the table who could not meet her eyes. Outside, the heat sat on the street like a heavy animal. Ryan's car idled at the curb. He saw her face and turned the music down without a word. She slid in, shut the door, let the quiet hold her. "They did it," he said. "Yeah. Want me to circle the block until you breathe again?" Claire watched the house shrink in the mirror as they pulled away. She counted the streetlights. 1, 2, 3. The numbers steadied her hand. In her pocket, her thumb found the callus the trackpad had given her. She pressed it until the sting felt like proof. There are 1,000 ways to leave a room. She chose the one where she kept every piece of herself. "Drive," she said. The first time Dawson Sink predicted a demand spike with near-perfect precision, Claire didn't cheer. She blinked at the dashboard, dark room, fluorescent hum, the office at 2 a.m. making a soft ocean of equipment noise. She waited for the outlier to reveal itself. There wasn't one. She reached for her phone and typed a note to herself. "Trust the math." Then she erased it. She trusted the work, not luck. She and Ryan lived on coffee and error logs that spring. They measured progress in failing tests turning green. The cramped space near Lady Bird Lake smelled like old carpet and fresh solder. Ryan covered the whiteboard with arrows and Claire erased them with her sleeve. They moved like people who knew where the other would be before they arrived. When the retail pilot went live, Carlos Vega's face filled the conference screen, his background a warehouse catwalk. He had the voice of someone who didn't have time for fluff. If this saves me 5% waste, you're heroes. It saved him more. The graphs rose. The waste bins didn't. Claire filed the success into the folder in her brain labeled "Do More." The boardroom presentation after the first quarter hit like a storm. Claire brought numbers, Ryan brought a grin, Monica brought a photographer. Thomas clapped her shoulder while looking at the investor across the table. Susan said you should wear heels next time. It reads more executive. Claire added it to a pile called Things to Ignore. That summer, the shift began. Not loud. In the company Slack, where Monica's posts drew hearts for saying we're innovating strategically. In the emails from Thomas that said keep the servers stable, good job, while copying Monica on the investor praise. In Susan's dinner invitations to Monica's panel on leadership at a downtown hotel. Claire updated the core scheduler and missed the panel. Monica posted a photo of herself on stage. The caption said our vision takes courage. Ryan watched her scroll past it. You want to fight in public or win in private, he asked. Both, she said. She meant later. After the system scaled. After the next release. After her father said I see you the way he had in the garage when she was 14 and rewired the stereo to stop the hum that drove him mad. At a meetup, Claire overheard it from a man who pronounced API like a word. Monica is the brains, right? Claire stood so still her drink warmed in her hand. She texted Ryan. She typed I am going to lose my mind and backspaced every word and sent only a period. He replied with an address for tacos. They ate on the curb outside. He picked cilantro off her sleeve. He said none of them were there when the servers crashed at 3 in the morning, and you held it together with a patch you wrote with one eye open. Claire nodded and stared at the passing headlights. She made a new folder in her head. Not for praise. For contingencies. The call from Susan came on a sticky afternoon when the AC in the office sounded tired. Your sister has leadership instincts, her mother said. She has presence. You have other gifts. It was said like a compliment. It was not. Claire muted the line and watched a process monitor tick down memory usage. She unmuted and said thanks for the feedback. She said it without breaking. That night on the floor of their apartment, Ryan drew a box on a yellow pad and wrote inside it, protect your work. Claire stared at the box the way she stared at a failing dependency. Every system needs an anchor. Every boundary must be explicit. She picked up the pen. Okay, she said. If they erase my name from the door, they won't erase my authorship from the engine. It wasn't a trap. That mattered to Claire. It had to matter. She wouldn't wreck a system used by strangers who counted on deliveries that kept their own customers fed and working. She would keep things safe and tie the core to its maker, the way an artist signs a painting where the frame meets canvas. Quiet. Undeniable. Ryan sketched threat models. They spoke in low voices like people plotting a heist, except the vault belonged to Claire's hands. The safeguard lived deep where only someone who knew how the architecture breathed could place it. A biometric handshake. A rolling key. A graceful degrade if the handshake wasn't made on schedule so the system slowed rather than crashed, because ethics has to be built into every choice. This is not revenge, Ryan said. Say it. It is not revenge. It is authorship and safety. He nodded, held her gaze. You make the rules. She wrote the code like a prayer. Slow. Careful. She left breadcrumbs for herself. Obfuscation at the edges. Honest documentation in a private repository. She scheduled a routine that would nudge her every 72 hours. Not a choke. A question. Are you still consenting to this machine running in your name? The first time she scanned her fingerprint, the server farm gave a low, pleased hum. Claire exhaled. The dashboard shimmered. Ryan pressed 2 fingers to his temples and said, I think I just fell in love with a checksum. They tested failure paths for a week. Every sim ended with the same result. Without her touch, the core throttled to safe mode. Orders delayed. Nothing dangerous. Enough to signal that the person who understood the heart of the thing needed to be in the loop. Claire slept for 8 hours and woke to sunlight she didn't recognize and almost cried from the simple mercy of it. She told no one. Not Carlos. Not the junior dev who brought her ginger candies and called her boss. Not even the mirror. She told the yellow pad. She wrote the word boundary and drew a line under it so hard the pen tore the paper. Then came the dinner. The cold room. The phrases that lived in her bones now. Step down. Support your sister. Family. Claire walked out with her back straight and her mouth closed and the code in her pocket like a spare key. The first alerts arrived exactly when the calendar said they would if she stopped touching the system. Claire sat at her small kitchen table and watched the notifications populate like rain. Performance degrades. Queues growing. She waited 15 minutes. She breathed. She pressed her thumb to her phone and canceled the handshake remotely. The graphs kept falling. The algorithm asked for what it always did. Her presence. Her consent. She did not offer it. Carlos called. His voice was clipped rather than angry. What changed? Claire chose the narrowest truth that would not be a lie. Leadership. She said the word like she was tasting a spoiled grape. We're in transition. Help me help you, he said. I will not let your warehouses go dark, she said. But I won't be cut out of my own work. There is a difference between saving a system and erasing its maker. Silence stretched. He was not a sentimental man. He was a practical one. Say what you need, he said finally. She gave him a list of temporary levers she could pull without opening the vault. He sent her a list of his own. She called Ryan. They did math. They engineered a path through the middle of a fire without burning the building down. The first payment for consulting arrived with a number that made Ryan whistle. Claire didn't. She watched the transfer and felt nothing but a clean, bright calm. You're writing a contract the old way would not allow, Ryan said. Your terms. Claire looked at the line in the yellow pad. Protect your work. She checked the box. Dawson Dynamics changed its smell. Stress has a scent. Burnt coffee. Cold takeout. Recirculated air that can't quite hide the warmth of bodies who haven't slept. When Claire walked through the glass doors with a visitor badge that said consultant, the receptionist said welcome back with a small relief that reminded Claire how many people in the building liked it most when things simply worked. The engineers watched her without looking. You can spot competence by the way a room quiets when a person opens their laptop. She got a corner office with a view of a parking lot under sun. She set her rate in an email and didn't apologize. $2,000 an hour. No equity. No visibility games. Outputs published to clients and logged. Monica signed the contract with a flourish and CC'd the board like she had landed a star. Claire archived the thread. She worked the edges. Tuning buffers. Adjusting thresholds. Enough to keep Carlos's chain moving. Never enough to hand the keys to a person who called databases files. Ryan synced with her at night. They went quiet when fatigue made them mean. They stood up. They came back to the work when their eyes stopped burning. Monica burst into a staff call midweek and accused Claire of sabotage with a finger pointed like a spear. Claire let the silence do its shape. Accusations feel smaller and quiet. Carlos's square in the call grid narrowed his eyes. If this call is theater, he said, I am leaving. If it is triage, listen to the person fixing your mess. Monica flushed. Words tumbled out. Strategic initiative. Vision story. The phrases bumped into each other like furniture in the dark. Thomas hovered near the door like a portrait. Susan sent messages that read like prayers you whisper out of habit. After hours, Thomas found Claire at the coffee machine and called her kiddo by accident. He flinched when he heard himself. He asked for mercy the way men ask for a late checkout. Reasonable. Assumed. Fix it for good, he said. I was wrong. Claire stirred powdered creamer into her cup. She wanted to say, I needed you to be brave when it mattered, not contrite when it costs you. She said instead, I work on contract. The system stays principled. She looked at his face and saw a man who had not imagined his daughter as a force that could choose to walk away. A message came from Janet Myers at a rival firm. Admired your architecture decisions. If you're open to a conversation, I would value one. Claire stared at the words. Not you're a star. Not we can make you famous. Valued. She set the phone down and let the offer exist without touching it. At night, she wrote a letter she would never send. Dear Monica, it is a high to be loved for the story you tell. It is a different high to be loved for a thing you made that works every single time. The second kind holds you when the lights go out. She folded the letter and put it in the yellow pad. Rumors became headlines. New CEO struggles to steady flagship product. The company blog posted a photo of Monica holding a microphone. The comments asked for uptime. The board scheduled a celebration called Monica's Wedding. The invitation arrived on heavy paper with ribbon like a bandage. Claire RSVP'd yes. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You want to go, he said. I want a room where all the people who picked a story over a system can hear a fact spoken clearly. Be kind, he said. Be precise, she answered. The venue was all soft lights and curated joy. White roses. A quartet playing songs that had learned to sound like air. Claire stood near the back in a black dress that felt like armor only because she walked like it was. Ryan took her hand and squeezed twice. The board gathered at a table near the stage. Thomas wore pride like a suit he hoped still fit. Susan arranged escort cards into perfect rows. Monica glowed. It was earned glow, the kind money buys and salons maintain, but also the heat of a person who believes the night is proof. Speeches began. Jokes about meet cuties. A cousin spoke too long. Laughter rose and fell. Claire watched the tech installed for the slideshow. She watched the projector stutter with a frame drop. She thought about all the systems in the world no one thanked until they failed. When the mic came to Thomas, he toasted family and legacy and the courage of vision. He did not say Claire's name. He said the company's name and the year on the plaque in the lobby. The room applauded. Claire could count claps like heartbeats now and know when they were polite. Monica took the mic with a smile that practiced hitting every angle. Tonight is about love, she said. Tomorrow we go back to building future. Claire stepped forward when the MC asked if anyone else wanted to speak. She did not rush. She did not blow anything up. She did not perform. She stood where the light did not quite reach and lifted the mic and let quiet introduce her. Congratulations, she said. Her voice carried like a clear instrument. I will be brief. She looked at the board table. At Carlos near the edge. At her parents who could not keep their faces smooth anymore. She felt Ryan near her like a wall behind a wall. Dawson Sink runs on principles. One of them is that complex systems must be stewarded by people who understand them. Another is consent. For the last months, the core has required a periodic cryptographic handshake that confirms the steward is present and accountable. Without it, the system gracefully degrades to prevent unsafe decisions. She let that exist in the room. No accusation. No drama. A mechanic explaining torque. I wrote that handshake. I wrote it to protect clients and the integrity of the work. It is documented and it is ethical. Any steward with sufficient depth can assume it. That is the point. Monica stepped forward. You're trying to humiliate me on my wedding day, she said. Her voice shook, not with rage, with fear. There it was. A human thing. Claire recognized it and did not enjoy it. I am telling the truth in a room that taught me to stay quiet, Claire said. If the company values what it says it values, assign stewardship to someone who can meet the handshake. If it needs my presence, you know my rate. If it does not, be honest about what you do not know yet. That is all. She lowered the mic. The quartet started because the MC panicked. People clapped because that is what people do when they don't know where to put their hands. Carlos caught her eye and gave the smallest nod a man like him allows outside a contract. In the hall, Thomas found her. He looked 10 years older under a chandelier. You could have warned me, he said. I did, Claire said. In a language you never learned to respect. Susan's voice came from behind him. Please. Fix it for your father. For your sister. For me. Claire felt something unhook in her chest. The tether that had pulled her back each time. She reached for Ryan's hand and found it. I am not your emergency brake, she said. I am a builder. If you want stewardship, pay for it or develop it. Choose. She walked out into the night that smelled like cut grass and gasoline. The air held warmth like a promise that did not belong to anyone else's mouth. 2 months later, The new office had windows that faced the river and a lab with plants because someone on Janet's team believed living things increased focus. Claire stood between a whiteboard full of rectangles and a glass wall that showed the city like a screenshot. The logo said Nexus Flow because Ryan had written a list of names and circled the one that sounded like what good code feels like when it moves. Janet walked in with her sleeves rolled and a stack of bug reports that looked more like confetti than crisis. She grinned. Numbers just came in, she said. Claire braced, not for money, for meaning. Adoption up. Turn down. A note from a small distributor in El Paso said your predictions saved us 2 jobs this month. Claire folded the paper like something sacred. Revenue doubled what Dawson had ever posted in its best quarter. It read like a headline if you wanted it to. Claire let it be a line in a ledger instead. The thing that mattered was the hum of servers and the sound of a team arguing in good faith and the engineering review where someone younger than her said, I think there is a better way, and she said, show me. Dawson Dynamics appeared in the news as a cautionary paragraph. The villa sold. The board shuffled chairs. Monica sent a message that said I am sorry in a font that looked too clean. Claire drafted a reply that said I hope you find the work that holds you and didn't send it. She put the draft in the folder in her head marked closure and closed it. On a Saturday, under oaks by the water, Claire and Ryan stood in front of friends who had learned her tells and her silences. Vows were not promises about forever. They were acknowledgments of the way they already moved. I will ask before I fix, Ryan said. I will leave comments in your code even when I am in awe. Claire said, I will let you be brilliant in ways that are not mine, and I will feed us when we forget to feed ourselves. They ate pie off paper plates. Someone from the lab brought a fiddle and played a song that made the air feel like August when she was 9 and her father taught her how to strip a wire. Claire thought of him and did not feel rage. She felt the odd, gentle grief reserved for people who loved you with the tools they had and never learned new ones. That night she and Ryan walked along the water. The city glowed like a lung working. He asked what's next and she said something small and true. We keep the system honest. We make something that makes someone else's day easier. We grow a team that will not forget who built what. She unlocked her phone and saw a note she had written months ago. Trust the math. She added a line. Trust the people who show up when the servers crash. A breeze lifted the hem of her dress. She held Ryan's hand and felt her own pulse slow to a pace she knew she could sustain. Independence was not a banner she waved. It was a steady practice. It tasted like clean coffee and an empty inbox at midnight and a team shipping on time without heroics. Somewhere across town a system she had touched made a decision that saved a driver an hour. Somewhere else a warehouse manager hit refresh and did not dread the result. These were the victories she wanted stitched into her days. Claire Dawson had left a house that could not hold her and built rooms that did. The city reflected itself on the river. She watched it and did not count anything. She let the quiet count her.